is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
All right, everybody, welcome into another edition of the Patriots Draft Podcast. Guys, today we're going to be doing a fun little mock draft here. Of course, we are joined by the one and only Alex Barth. We're going to be doing a Will of Chaos mock draft, so we'll share the will here in a minute, but we're not going to be kind of deciding what's going on. The will will be, and we'll go a little chaotic from there, but excited to have Alex. How are you doing, man?
Good. I'm looking forward to this. You know, it's become such a routine of, okay, quarterback at 3, trade up, get A.D. Mitchell with the second pick, then get Patrick Paul at 68. Then you go, you know, either Cam Hart or Javon Foster. Like, I can do that draft in my sleep. So I'm actually looking forward to this where hopefully I'm not going to be allowed to do that. We'll see. Maybe the wheel's in as much of a rut as we all are, but this is a fun idea. I may have steal this for my show, honestly.
Go ahead. I actually stole it from, I think it was Bengal on YouTube that did it, because he just did one with the NFL Stock Exchange from PFF, and I saw that idea and I'm like, you know what? I've done like 15 mock drafts on this channel, and I know you've done a ton too and stuff. It's like, it's the same, like our dream picks, right? Like Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and then again, A.D. Mitchell, maybe Lad McConkey or something. Like, there's always the same one. So I'm kind of excited to do this and maybe challenge us a little bit to see what we can do. So we're really excited for this one. Again, guys, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment down below so that we know. And obviously I'll pull up the will right here so you can see, right? We got best available, a non-SEC player. We have one where Alex makes the pick, where I make the pick. We have to go defense on one. We have to reach for one, you know, and we can kind of decipher what that means once we see what the board looks like. But a joint pick, which will be both me and Alex talking it out, an offensive pick, a trade. It has to be an SEC player, or we'll leave it up to you guys with the viewers pick. So I'm excited to see what we land on. You know, I think that there's going to be quite a few ones that hopefully are a little bit crazy. So you ready to kind of start off and see what we have to do with the first pick right here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead, spin this. Hopefully you guys can see that well right here. We'll see what it says. Dang. Not too crazy. So we're going to remove it every time too, right? So we can't get the same one again.
Okay. So we're going to have to narrow it down. I got you.
We're going to have to narrow it down, right? Because I don't want to make 4 picks. I've done that all the time. So we're going to take this down. So I guess I get the first pick. Not very fun, but we'll be able to have some good discussion. So we're actually using NFL mock draft database just because there's more players in there. So
did you see that? Did you see when
did JJ McCarthy go 1?
JJ McCarthy went 1 and Drake May went 2. So I know on my show we respect the board.
I agree.
Happens. I don't know how you want to do this here, but yeah,
I totally agree. I think there's no way Caleb Williams doesn't go number 1 overall, right? The Bears trade Justin Fields, like, he's going to go number 1 overall. So I think we have to respect the board, just because if we sit here and, like, this draft's probably going to be unlikely no matter what we do once we get in the later rounds, but it's going to be real unlikely, especially if we take Caleb Williams. So
yeah,
I want to know your opinion, though, just all the rumors going around. Do you buy into the Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy hype at pick 2? Obviously, I would be so happy with Jaden Daniels at pick 3. I'm a little bit more of a fan of Drake May just because of his age, some of the intangibles that he has in size. But do you really think JJ McCarthy has a chance to go to Washington at pick 2?
I mean, Zach Wilson went to the Jets, so I'm not going to sit here and say it's impossible. I'm not going to sit here and say I couldn't see it. Zach Wilson went to the Jets. Last year we were talking about Will Levis being a top 5 pick, which ultimately didn't happen, which, by the way, the JJ McCarthy hype reminds me a lot of Will Levis last year. I think it's actually going to pay off, but I don't think it ultimately does. But would it be the most surprising thing I've ever seen at the top of a draft? Absolutely not. That being said, I am a big believer in Jaden Daniels. I've had Jaden Daniels as my QB2 since before the end of the season. So I can totally see that. And I think, especially with Cliff Kingsbury there, it makes a lot of sense. Now, the last couple of weeks, I feel like maybe Drake May's done some things to make it more enticing for the Commanders, but I still, it's 51-49, but I still think Jaden Daniels is going 2nd overall.
Okay, I think that's where I've fallen to, right? Like, it feels too obvious that Jaden Daniels isn't going to go number 2. I think he's going number 2 overall, and I'm totally fine with that. I know you said he's your QB2, but I think I have Drake May as my QB2. I think both of them are going to bring a element to this offense that is so exciting. Drake May reminds me Justin Herbert, Josh Allen type because of the size, and people underestimate his rushing ability because of how good of runners Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels are. But he can scramble, he can make plays. He's not going to be as good as Jaden Daniels and those guys. But if this is how it falls, which it very could be, Drake May's been the number 2 overall pick for a long time until Jaden Daniels had the Heisman year and stuff like that. So, I mean, here, if we're going obvious, I think it's got to be Jaden Daniels because we obviously didn't get trade down, which would be another scenario I'd love to look at just because of how many picks we could get. But it's just as much as I want Marvin Harrison Jr. too, it's not going to happen at pick 3. So it's got to be Jaden Daniels here for me.
All right, Jaden Daniels it is.
Cool. Well, let's okay, so now we'll go back to the will. Yeah, we paused it right here because might get trade. And obviously, if we get trade, we might want to trade up. So let's go back to the will, see what we get here now. Obviously, my pick is out. It's going to be SEC player, it looks like.
All right, so I'll run it.
Yep, so run it. We have to pick at 34, and now we're going to have to go with an SEC player. Okay, so we'll see what SEC players are on the board.
Is this current SEC, or could we take like a guy from Texas?
You mean, I would say current.
Okay,
I get what you're saying because is AD Mitchell there?
AD Mitchell doesn't look like it. No, but Xavier Worthy is. He'd be the one. But actual SEC, let's see. We got Xavier Legette.
Yep.
Ricky Pearsall. Edrin Cooper. There's no SEC tight ends.
Yeah, no tight ends.
Ennis Rakestraw, Kamari Lassiter, Jalen Wright. There's no SEC tackles. Chris Braswell, I mean, he's a good player. I don't know that we want to go edge this side. Chris Braswell's a good player. Yeah. And it's a little early for Javon Bullard, but not a ton of SEC guys.
I mean, going off of who we just saw right here, the most obvious position's got to be receiver, right? Either Xavier Legette or Ricky Pearsall. I don't know. I know a lot of Patriots fans love Xavier Legette. Where do you kind of stand on him?
I think he's a good player. This is a little bit high for me for them because I if they're going to invest this pick in a receiver, I'd like to see them get a true, well-rounded threat. And I think Legette can be a really good player, but he's a scheme touch guy. He's a gadget player. And that player can totally make an impact. But that impact is somewhat dependent on who you have around you. Part of the reason Deebo Samuel is so good is because they also have Christian McCaffrey and Kittle, right? So he's probably the pick here. I wouldn't sleep on Rakestraw. They need another corner. He's a good player. There's good value for him. A lot of people think he's going to be a first-round pick. But again, it feels rich for a corner for me. Maybe if I'm trying to think of who the other I don't know how to rewind this, who the other late first round corners are. I think there's some SEC guys. Yeah, if a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry fell, I'd probably feel a little stronger than a guy like Ennis Rakestraw. But if we're going SEC, I'd honestly be more between Legette and Rakestraw than it would between Legette and Pearsall. If I'm going receiver here, I'm going Legette.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of Ricky Pearsall. I do agree. I've always said I feel like this is too rich for Ricky Pearsall too, but you're not going to get him at 68. So do you trade down here, get an extra 4th or 5th round pick, and then take Ricky Pearsall maybe, in the 40s? Obviously, we didn't get that. So, I mean, I would probably lean Legette too, just because Ricky Pearsall's just a little bit smaller than him in size. He ran really well, though. I was actually really surprised. So I agree with you. If we want to go receiver here, Xavier Legette, even though I don't know if 34 would be my comfort range for him, I think that's it. I mean, there's offensive. I love Javon Foster, but it's way too high.
It's way too early. Yeah, I was just looking to make sure we didn't miss anybody.
I mean,
it's a weird spot, and what is overall really a weak year for the SEC.
Yeah,
but I think it would be Legette here.
Okay, let's do it. I like Xavier Legette. I mean, if you had to rank the biggest needs for the Patriots, obviously, are you going quarterback 1 or are you going offensive tackle? Okay, so quarterback, then what's 2 for you? Receiver or
I don't know. I don't want to do a cop out. Some of it depends on the quarterback for me, which quarterback they take, but I'd probably go tackle. As much as I love this wide receiver class, and I think it's set up for them to really get a playmaker without having to overexert themselves too much. I can't do another year of we're just like revolving door tackle, just whoever's a fit this week. And I know that some people like Chuck Okorafor out there, a guy that's played right tackle for the last 6 years. He hasn't played left since college. I don't love that. I think Connor McDermott's a true right tackle. I know he played left last year, but I think he's a true right tackle. I like Vidarian Lowe as a developmental player, but man, he's not close to being a guy that you feel comfortable about week one. Same for Tyrone Wheatley. So it's I know it's not like the sexy pick or anything, but it's probably tackle. I receiver would be cooler, obviously, but I think if you're really trying to build this thing long-term sustainably, and the way this board sets up too, and the way tackle drops off after 50, I think it's tackle.
And this might be crazy to say, but I feel like our wide receiver core is better than our offensive tackles right now. Like we don't have a true number one receiver, but Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas showed flashes. Those two are better than any offensive tackle we have right now, except for Michael Winu. But we have to figure out the left tackle spot unless you're taking Michael Penix, and then the right tackle becomes a little bit more of a guy important because he's a southpaw. Right. But you're probably not going to be taking Penix. In this one, you take Jaden Daniels. So at some point, they've got to find a left tackle for the future, because right now it just feels like everyone's a bridge guy. Everyone's bridging for, whether they take a first-round tackle next year or sign someone or whatever.
Right. You have all to your point, you have all the complementary receivers. You're just hunting a number one. For left tackle, you're trying to just fill out the depth chart. You just need a guy. So someone that's capable of it. But yeah. So cool. All right. Jaden Daniels, Xavier Legette, first two picks right there. Let's go back to the wheel here. Let's see. We have a bunch more options that we can land on. So let's see where we're going next. This is going to be defense. Ooh, this makes it interesting because now we can't get an offensive tackle in the third round. Okay, so we're going to have to go with a defensive player right here. Tavondre Sweat just went.
That's like my dream pick with Barmore. Like those, like him in the third round.
I don't know how it happens. I'll have a defensive line preview out on Thursday, and Tavondre. Look, they're going to get raked if they take a 360-pound defensive tackle in the top 100. And I don't even know that it's the right pick in terms of like building the team long term. But he'd be such a good fit. You can't single block him, and to put him in the middle with Barmore and Judon and Uche, and just let those guys pin their ears back and go with him occupying blockers. Vince Wilfork, I won't go as far as the Vince Wilfork comp. That's a bit rich because he's not that kind of athlete. He's athletic for his size, but that kind of impact where he wouldn't put up a ton of stats, but his impact would be felt. Like, I think he can be that kind of guy, but it's a moot point because we got to go defense here.
Yeah, he's not like Jordan Davis coming out. Like Jordan Davis was massive and a freak athlete. Like
Jordan Davis, the unicorn. Yeah, Jordan Davis,
and
unicorn.
I feel like people are like, oh, he's Jordan Davis. Well, maybe size-wise and stuff and what he can do, but he's not athletically anything like that, or Vince Wilfork for your point. So, yeah, but defense here, what's the biggest need on defense? Because I feel like people look over it.
I think it's corner. Now, there's still some decent free agent corners they could add. I'd like to see them add like a second opposite Gonzalez, and I think they're okay for the third between Alex Austin, Isaiah Bolden, guys like that. It could be safety. Like, I'd like to see, I don't know if they're interested in adding that free safety, but I kind of think they should be. So somewhere in the secondary, I think edge is certainly a need that needs to be addressed because of all the guys that are in contract years, but that's a guy you can get later, a little bit more of a project player. If they're going to go defense with this pick, I'd like to see him go corner or safety.
Okay. Well, I've always said corner just because I feel like with the losses of JC Jackson, Jack Jones, I mean, Alex Austin was great at the end of last year. Can he keep that up? We'll see. Marcus Jones coming back from an injury. Same with Christian Gonzalez. So now you're looking like, holy crap, if those guys take 6 weeks to get ready, you might need a younger guy. I've also been, tell me where you are on this. If we take a corner, do you want to see more of a slot guy or an outside guy? Because like, I love targeting like Cam Hart in the 4th round. But do we want to move Jonathan Jones inside permanently?
I think having that flexibility is nice. And the reality is you may start the season with Gonzalez and Jones on the outside. And as you go, Cam Hart develops and he goes in and you move Jonathan Jones back to the inside. You also have Marcus Jones on the inside. So honestly, I look at some of the tweener guys as just like depth. And here you want a guy that's going to have more of a clear path. And in that case, I'd rather have a boundary corner than a slot corner. But I look like I look at guys like, and then let me see how many of them are still on the board, although it's probably early here. Yeah, I look at a guy like Chris Abrams-Drain. I look at a guy like Jarvis Brownlee. These are guys. Josh Newton is another great example of they're not truly boundary or not truly slot corners. And so if you want to move Jonathan Jones to the outside, you have some slot depth next to Marcus Jones. But if you want to kick Jonathan Jones to the inside, you're going to be a little smaller, but you have guys you can trust on the boundary. For where they're probably going to pick a corner, which is a pick or two later in this, that's the kind of guy I want. But if we're going to go here, top 100, like you can get a good slot corner later in the draft. If you're going to invest this kind of pick in a corner, I want a boundary shutdown corner.
Okay, so I'll kind of let you talk about this or head this one, and I'll throw in my opinions. But Max Melton, real big fan of him. Kyrie Jackson's a long corner. Let's just pair. I mean, I know he's an Alabama transfer, but let's get two long Oregon corners to head the outside with Christian Gonzalez. So who would you target here if corner is the spot to go? Now, I do think D-line is something we looked at. We obviously talked about Tavondre Sweat, but
this kind of fell off though.
Yeah, like if I know we're not going to get defense again, but you could take like a Leonard Taylor or something with pick 103. Right. So what's the corner, maybe safety you're looking at here in the top 100 that's worth it?
So I like Max Melton, and he's one of those tweener corners, actually. Also a really good special teams player. Yep. Javon Bullard interests me. He can play. Cam Kitchens does too. And I don't know that Javon Bullard would be here at this point, but these are both guys that can play free safety. Bullard's more of like a hybrid free safety slot corner kind of guy. Kitchens is a true free safety who probably would have been a top 50 pick if not for disastrous combine, but they have some inside info on him in terms of Alonzo Highsmith obviously being at Miami prior to joining the Patriots. Also, like Puka Nacua had a bad combine. I don't put the most stock into that. I know what I see on the tape. I will say I noticed Braylon Trice fell. If Bill Belichick was still here, Braylon Trice, he's the guy I'd point to as this is the guy that they're going to take way too early. Like I'm watching Braylon Trice at Washington. He's like kind of Dietrich Wise crossed with Anthony Jennings. He is going to set the edge, high motor on every play, team captain, team leader, not super flashy, just solid, reliable, strong side edge setter. Now, there's less of a need for that given they re-signed Anthony Jennings, but I don't know if they go away from that entirely, and they've talked about wanting to add leadership. They're certainly no stranger in the past to drafting edge guys who just have no path to playing. Yeah. We've seen them do that. And this is just great value for Braylon Trice, who I think is a top 50 pick. But
off of his film and production alone, he's a top 50 pick. I know he kind of bombed the measurements and stuff and the testing, but like if you're just looking production and film alone, he's a top 50 pick. He just plays the right way.
I'll kick this to you. Like I'm Kyrie Jackson, I like, but I think in their system, he takes a little bit of a hit. He's a little more to me of one of those like Seattle zone corners. I think he'd, be good here, but Max Melton is their kind of corner. He fits this defense. I'm torn between Max Melton and Javon Bullard. I'll toss that to you. I mean, I think if we have to go defense here, those are, or Trice, I guess, those would be that's kind of where I'd be down to.
So this is something that I haven't looked at taking a safety very much. Looking at Javon Bullard, like out of the University of Georgia, I've always said, like, I feel like they were high on Bledsoe a couple years ago, and then he's never really stepped in and taken a very good amount of snaps. So is he still in the plan to kind of be like that? Obviously, they have Marte Mapu, who Gerard Mayo just said they're going to start at safety. They still have Jabril Peppers, depending on how true the rumors are of Kyle Duggar not being happy. I would assume that he's going to play this year. Like, I feel like the safety room is set. Now, I get the true free safety is not there.
Right. If they want to go back to that, like cover one.
Yeah, maybe you kick that down the road. Guy. So, but I don't know.
If they want to go back to that this year, you can't necessarily, you can't. That's the thing. If they want to get back to that, how long do they want to wait before they get back to it? And I'd say Duggar, we saw him in that role last year. He was fine, but certainly wasn't great. Marte Mapu, I don't think he's a box safety. Jabril Peppers is probably their best free safety, but he's also so good near the line of scrimmage. I want to stick him back there. So I think if they want to do that, they have to invest in it in the draft.
Okay, well,
but maybe they don't want to do it.
I'm gonna go. Let's go with Javon Bullard. I haven't done it a lot. I think that it's definitely something that a lot of Patriots fans, at least when I'm doing lives, like suggest it, like take a free safety. I love Max Melton too, but I think let's go with Javon Bullard because I do agree with you. I think that they do need that true post safety, and they don't really have one on roster. So I like it. I like taking Javon Bullard. It's something different than what I've ever really done just because of where I think the Patriots are. So I like it. So
and we're
first
all
picks
SEC.
down.
We're 3 for 3 SEC.
There we go. I mean, SEC is the best conference. So, okay, let's go back to the wheel. Going on to our fourth pick. Let's see what we're going to get here. Okay, we're going to get viewers pick, looks like. Okay, so obviously you guys as the viewers are going to be able to choose this. Okay, so make sure down in the comment. Well, let's give them a couple options. Let's make this a little easy. Like, we got to look at what the tackle board looks like, right?
Right. So all the guys you kind of expect at this point: Christian Jones, Matt Goncalves, Javon Foster, Brandon Rice, Javon Baker, Malik Washington. You want to double up at receiver. Jeremiah Trotter still here. Wow, that would be. I know they don't need a linebacker. That'd be very tempting. Cade Stover, I like here. Dwayne Carter, I like here. He's a fun player. Go corner again. Chris Abrams-Drain. Blake, a lot of good running backs. Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd. Is Jalen Wright still here? No, but Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd. Still got Austin Booker on the edge. So ton of options.
Yeah. So I love. Do you like Javon Baker too out of UCF? That's a fourth, fifth round guy. I love taking.
He's fine. Look, if the board were to look like this, I think Brendan Rice is a better version of the player he is.
Okay.
If they take like a Xavier Worthy, right? Or I'm trying to think of the other kind of guy, like a Xavier Worthy type of player, then adding Javon Baker as a potential X as like your second receiver makes some sense to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know that like Javon Baker's coming in and solving all your problems.
Yeah. And I mean, he seems kind of repetitive to Xavier Legette. I mean, it's probably getting similar of a player there. And I know we have mostly like slot receivers, but it seems repetitive to take both those guys. So there's two comments here that say Javon Foster. Zach says Javon. Jason says Javon Foster. That is because if you go back to the tackle board, I like Goncalves. I really do. But I think Christian Jones he played right tackle, right? He was the right tackle for Texas.
Yeah.
And,
he's a pure right tackle.
Goncalves has been bounced around at multiple positions. So I like Javon Foster here. Is this too rich for him, though? Like, I think he's a very productive SEC player. He's played a ton of snaps, and he was on one of the most improved offenses this year. Now, I know you don't just relate that, but like, I know he's ranked 154 on this board, but I'd feel so comfortable taking him at pick 103.
I would too, especially the tackle board is going to be weird because we kind of lay it out like we do. And then all of a sudden, why am I blanking on his name? The BYU kid.
Kingsley Sumatia.
Right. Kingsley Sumatia sneaks into the back end of the first round.
Yeah.
And now people panic and boom, Kieran Ademeji goes higher because the teams want to tackle and they're going off quicker than expected. And Patrick Paul goes higher. And like I did a mock like that with Brian Hines on Pat's Pulpit where that kind of happened. Like we went to 34 waiting to get our tackle and they were all gone. Yeah. They were just all, I'll pull up the board here to kind of make a point. So yeah, like we kind of wonder what if guys fall, but this is their overall ranking. This isn't their draft projection, but you get Joe Alt, Nolu Fashanu in the top 10. Talise Fuanga sneaks in the top 15. Now teams start panicking. J.C. Latham and Troy Fatano could both go in the top 20. Yep. Amarius Mims, Tyler Guyton go off the board before the end of the first round. Like they could start, and teams are going to have Jordan Morgan as guard. That's just the reality. They're going to be teams that have Jordan Morgan as guard.
Shorter arms, yeah.
Right. Guys are going to start flying off the board. So I don't think it's too high for him. If the draft goes a certain, now look, if it's one of those things where teams wait on tackles, it could end up being too high because you could also get, Ademeji falling here. I think that's possible. But if there's a run on the board, if there's an early run, then yeah, you kind of take Javon Foster here, especially if you want a guy with some left tackle upside because Christian Jones, a pure right tackle.
Yep.
Goncalves might be a guard. I'll say that again. I think his value in the NFL isn't as a starter. It's as a guy that can be a backup for position offensive lineman. And there's value in that, but that's not what the Patriots need right now. At least that's not their biggest need. So I would go Foster here.
I agree. He's played 890 plus snaps in 3 straight years. Like an Iron Man, doesn't miss games, experienced, and he's going to get some of the best pass rushers, right? You're talking about the SEC here. I know we were just joking. We've taken 3 SEC guys, but like this is a guy that's played at the highest level, started for 3 years and played a very, very high level of football. For one, a bad Missouri team early in his career, and then last year, a very good Missouri offense and stuff. So I think this is a slam dunk pick, especially because, like you mentioned, I think that there will be a run on tackles early or late in the first round, early in the second. Yeah. And so now this is probably the highest upside guy for you in the 4th round, and you're taking a chance on him as to be your starting left tackle, and hopefully he develops. So I love Javon Foster here.
All right, Foster it is.
I got a question for you. This comes from the comments. Yep. Jason asked about Roger Rosengard, which I thought he tested very well, but he's mostly a right tackle, right? That's all he played.
So he was off the board to answer the question. He did get drafted there. With his athleticism and his IQ, he could probably play left, and he was a blindside protector at Washington on the right side. It might take a little longer to develop him. Rosengarten, to me, is interesting because he was a top 100 pick, and then he had a nightmare of a national championship game. Yeah. Like, for what everybody tried to pin on Michael Penix, there's multiple snaps in that game where Rosengarten's still in his stance. His hand's still on the ground, and the defensive lineman's behind him. And that dropped him, and now I think people are starting to go back through his full body of work and realize what kind of player he is. So he could surprise some people. He could go higher than expected. I probably would have taken him there over Foster if he was on the board.
If he was available.
He went, right, so it wasn't an option.
Okay, perfect. Well, I feel very comfortable with Von Foster, so let's go back to our will. Going on to the 5th round of our draft. We might be getting a trade here, so maybe we trade back up. It's going to be your pick, Alex. All on you. All right. You get to take this one, 5th round, right here.
I mean, do I have to take Bud Means? I feel like that's what the people want.
The people want Bud Means. The people want him.
Let's see. Well, that's not respect. I'm going to respect the board. Cam Hart,
no way.
Outstanding here, but I'm going to respect the board.
Running back, I like it.
Yeah, I don't love any of the tight end. I mean, Theo Johnson, okay, but I can wait on tight end. A lot of the tight ends are falling. Now, Mo Kamara is not here. I like Nelson Caesar. That's a possibility. I like Tommy Eichenberg. There's nobody really want to double up with that. Like, we can wait on Bud Means. I'm very tempted to go running back here. I'm very tempted.
I said this I do a mock draft every Monday. So I said this in my mock draft yesterday. I don't know how the Patriots view Ramondre, and I love Ramondre. Like, he's been a very productive back, but is he going to be worth the money he's probably going to want in free agency? I don't know. And so I feel like getting a 3-down back, because you sign Antonio Pierce, he's more of the pass catcher guy. I feel like you need to replace him because we haven't seen much out of Kevin Harris. We traded Pierre Strong to Cleveland. So both the 2 running backs you took 2 classes ago probably aren't going to be a lead back one day. So yeah, in the 5th round, taking a chance on a guy like Ray Davis, who's been very productive, is very, very smart in my opinion.
So this is, I'm between a couple guys because part of me, are we drafting this guy to complement what they have, or are we drafting this guy to develop and become the lead back? To complement what they have in Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, Tyrone Tracy from Purdue. This is a little early for him, but if they like him, it's not crazy. Converted wide receiver, so excellent pass catcher, really brings that high-end speed, jitterbug kind of element. That's if we're going for the compliment. If they know they're not going to re-sign Ramondre Stevenson, they want a new lead back, and this is something I've been big on. If they're actually going to enforce this anti-hip drop tackle rule, I have no interest in any ball carriers under 210 pounds.
Yes, take the big body guy that, people have to square up and tackle.
I look at Ray Davis, like, he plays much bigger than he is. I forget what he actually checked in at the combine. I'm just going to check here real quick.
Was he a Senior Bowl guy too?
Yeah, he was. That was kind of where I started watching him. So Ray Davis is 5'8", 211. And he's as hard of a runner as anybody in this draft. Like, he keeps the legs churning. He does not go down. He's a tough tackle. But then there's also Isaac Garendo from Louisville, who, and I got his size loading here. It's bigger. 6 foot 221, ran a 4.33.
Yeah, and at the combine.
look, you can't bank it all on measurements, but I think running back is one of the positions where you can lean a little more on that stuff. And Guerrero he's kind of got that Ramondre Stevenson thing going where he's built like a bowling ball back, but he doesn't play like one. There's a little more wiggle in his game. So I think I'm talking myself into Guerrero. I like Davis here too. I just think Guerrero probably he's super raw. He didn't play a ton in college. He was transfer, really only has 1 year as a contributor. He may not max out as quick as Ray Davis does, but if you're going to kind of redshirt him this year, which might end up being the case, I'm talking myself into Guerrero or going away from the SEC. It's good. It was my pick, right?
Yes. Yep. Your choice.
All right. Yeah. I think we're going Guerrero here.
Okay. One question too, before I obviously will go with Guerrero. Is Braylon Allen on the board? Because that's who I just took in my last mock draft. That's another big I figured he wouldn't be because he's another big bodied back from a school that has a proven track record of NFL success at running back. And he's going to be 20 years old, like a young dude that's played a ton of college football. So he's another guy. If he was on the board, would you have taken him over Ray Davis or Guerrero?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I really, you can't go wrong with the Wisconsin running back.
That's very true.
A rule of thumb. So, but
that's very true. But no, I like Guerrero. I like Guerrero for sure.
All right, so we'll go Guerrero.
Cool. All right, let's head back to the wheel. Only got we have 3 more picks, 2 6-round picks and a 7th. So let's see what we get here.
Be right down.
Non-SEC. So we just broke the non-SEC trend. We're gonna have to do it again. So I'm sure we're gonna get a trade here. It's one of the most likely ones here. We have it on here. So we're gonna have to get a non-SEC player here with our first pick of the 6th round. So this is our original first pick. So
yeah.
Let's see. Probably double dipping at tackle, maybe, or receiver, or you could look at a tight end, I guess.
Yeah. So I like Walter Rouse here. If we want to go there, Grayson Murphy. This is respect the board territory for him. It's probably a little early for Jalen. Jalen Harold would be an interesting player here if we want to go edge. Josh Newton. Yeah, that's not. I don't think. Nope, we're not going SEC. So not Jalen Simpson. I like Ulofoshio. I do. Really good sideline to sideline linebacker. Smart player. Smart freaking player from Washington. He could be, they could have some fun with him, scheming stuff up for him. Jaheim Bell would be a good get, I think, at this point. Kind of give you that move tight end.
I like Dallin Holker too. Now, this might be because I'm a West Coast guy, so I actually grew up playing against Dallin Holker in high school, and then BYU is close to where I live. But he was one of the most productive tight ends of Colorado State. He's one of those move tight ends too, talk about him. So I like a guy like Dallin Holker. Let me ask you a question at offensive tackle. Now, this guy is a guy that I don't think anyone had. Is this too early for Frank Crum right there? Because he tested incredible.
I'll tell you this:
313 pounds and had almost 34-inch arms. Like, he jumped on my radar after the combine.
I think you're kind of working from the same base with Frank Crum and Tylen Grable. And the fact they're both on the board and we're picking in 13 picks, if that's the kind of guy we want, if that's the kind of guy we're looking at, I would, if there's a guy maybe we think we have a chance of losing here, I would take that guy here and then go tackle with the next pick. So then again, this may be, maybe we want to go tackle. Maybe we want to take both of them. Maybe we want them to be our next 2 picks. And now we've got a ton of tackle potential in the pipeline. Not a ton of, ready right now talent, but I think you would have a ton of potential on the way.
Yeah. So I agree because I don't think Frank Crum goes off the board in the next 13 picks before we get to 193. So it's probably smarter to look at one of those linebackers or edge guys right here because we've only taken one defensive guy up to this point. And if we're going to take another one there, you probably want to get some defensive things. So doubling
linebacker up the receiver could be the play here too. The board's not great for it. Be Bub Means or Jordan Whittington probably, and it's still a little early for both. So do we want to go linebacker?
Do you think they take one after signing Sione Taki? Obviously they got to get one in there. Jawan Bentley's still there. Taki.
So at this point, you're not necessarily thinking about, unless you're taking a kicker or a punter, you're not really, maybe a running back. You're not really thinking about guys' roles in terms of 2024 week 1. You're just thinking about what are individual skill sets you want to add? And I think Ulofoshio, the way he tackles in space, I look at him and I'll put him on the kickoff unit. I'll put him on kickoff coverage. Yep. Right. And he'll, does he grow into kind of they only signed Takitaki for 1 year, right? Does he sort of grow into that role? So does he have like an immediate path to play? No, but at the 180th pick, I think he has enough of a skill set that it's just get him on the team, get him on the roster. And what happens from there happens from there. You'll kind of figure it out as you go.
Okay, I'm down for it too because I mean, obviously you got to take some special teams value, and Slater's gone. You got to find some guys like that. So I let's take how do you say his name? Olafashio?
I think that's it. Yes,
gosh, I'm so bad with names. Like I said, I live close to BYU, and it took me like 3 times to learn how to say Kingsley Suamatia's name. I was like Suamatia, whatever. So
I'll give you one more interesting one here.
Okay,
Evan Williams from Oregon. I really had a great Senior Bowl. True ball hawking free safety. And I know we took Javon Bullard, but with Evan Williams, we could either immediately or down the road, because Bullard's played a ton of slot corner as well. You would be able to kind of play some games with those two and move those two around. And that would be a really interesting, it's putting a lot in its safety, but that'd be a really, because they always talk about, we're not corners, we're not safeties, we're not free safety, we're not box safety, we're not slot. We're defensive backs. If that's still the mentality, adding a guy like Javon Bullard and then Evan Williams ups that level of creativity you're able to have. And Evan Williams would definitely bring that special teams element as well. James Williams would be another guy. He's more of a box safety, but I just, because of Alonzo Highsmith, I think they'll like him.
Yeah. I don't know. You kind of sold me on the linebacker.
All right, Ulofoshio.
Ulofoshio. You kind of sold me on Ulofoshio.
Because we'll take him.
I love a good linebacker. So, and I mean, I'm looking at his combine stuff too. Sitting here looking 4.56 speed right here. Jumped almost 40 inches in the vertical jump, and then 10'8" in the broad, like explosive.
What are he measuring at too?
6'1", 236.
Yeah, so that's good size. He moves well, and he's a transfer. He was at, I think it's Cal. He was a multi-year starter there before he got to Washington. This guy's played a ton of ball. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong. Like, those guys they may have a bit of a limited ceiling, but those guys can come in and they're leaders within your rookie class. And I think having a guy like that, especially, actually, we've got some experience. Jane Daniels has experience. Javon Bullard. I know we've got actually a relatively experienced group, but still, they've hyped up leadership in that thing. Yeah. So Ulofoshio would fit into the character of player I think they want to draft this year.
Okay, I like it. Let's take him.
All right.
Okay, let's go back to the will. See what we get here. 2 more picks unless we get a trade. And get best available. All right. Now this one's kind of like the reach pick, right? Like, what does best available mean? I mean, I think it's best available at what position we want. So, I mean, what position do you think? Are we looking at the double dipping at receiver and maybe taking Bud Means or going offensive tackle again?
Well, if we're doing, I mean, do we have to stick to the board best available, or does this just mean we pick who we want to pick?
Yeah, I know that's hard because, like, obviously best available is going to be Kalen King, one of these guys that are right here. Grayson Murphy too, in my mind. But I mean, I actually wouldn't be against going with Grayson Murphy out of UCLA.
I wouldn't either. I mean, I don't know how much it's weird, like best available, respect the board, right? But
yeah, because it's probably unrealistic. He's here at 193,
right? I would say Jordan Travis might be here because of the injury thing. I would say Isaiah Adams might. James Williams is kind of where you start to get into it. So, however you want to, best available at the position we choose, like, works too. And I think Walter Rouse would be a good pick here, and he probably is. This is unrealistic, but he probably is the best tackle here. I would say because I like Frank Crum too, but he's a real project, and Tylen Grable's a real project. I kind of like Ethan Driscoll too, but I literally just like him because he's massive, and it's like, all right, he's big, like. Can you figure something out with that? He could be, what's his name? The guy they had in camp, and now he's on the Lions, who's just big. And like, it keeps him on rosters. Why am I blanking on his name?
The one it's not Stuber, the one we just drafted a couple years ago, right?
No, he's still in the Lions. It's the guy who checked in as eligible and didn't get called. Dan Skipper.
Oh yeah.
Like Dan
Stupid
Skipper's
refs.
just been in the NFL forever because he's like 6'10", 350 pounds. He's
Yeah.
not that good, but they throw him out there because he's huge and he keeps getting work beat. Like that to me is kind of Ethan Driscoll. Ethan Driscoll is, I think, 6'9", 320 something. He's just big.
Yeah.
That's all. And he's not, I'm not going to tell you like he's got this great technique or he's super athletic. He's just big, but it's football. And sometimes big equals capable.
Well, I've been a big advocate about saying this. Like, you can't teach size, you can't teach length. Now, obviously, you can't really take a guy and make him have super quick feet if he doesn't, but you can teach him good technique with that length, good hand placement with that length. And you can't take a 6'4" short-armed guy and make him a really effective offensive tackle and make him have 35-inch arms. So you take a guy like this, you take a chance. Trent Brown was a late round pick, and he turned out to be pretty dang good. So yeah, let's double dip because, I mean, not getting an offensive lineman until pick 103 was probably less ideal than usual, even though we got a guy that we both really like. So let's take Walter Rouse here if he's still on the board, which good he is.
Yep. All right, cool.
Okay, let's go back to the wheel right here, see what we can do with our last
Jordan
pick.
Travis to Pittsburgh. Makes a ton of sense.
Let him sit behind Justin Fields.
Well, behind, like, he's kind of Russ-ish.
Yeah.
Russ-ish.
This got to be stupid. We get a trade in the 7th round. Okay. So I mean, we're gonna have to make a trade here, and then obviously, we'll get.
I mean, let's trade down. Let's pick up picks. I'm just gonna let it run to our next pick.
Yeah. Trade down here. No need to trade up.
Yeah.
Trade down and get 2 7ths or something. Even though you're probably getting like a 7th and a future 6th or something in this spot. But
let's see who has multiple picks left. Cowboys.
Dallas.
I'll do the old Packer way.
There you go.
Nope, can't do that.
Can you do future picks on NFL mock draft database?
You usually can. I don't know why it's not letting me.
Yeah.
And I turned force trade off. We might be in trouble here. Uh-oh. We might have to spin the wheel again.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think if that Jets trade didn't work, because they were both in the 250s. So let me go back, see. Just the Cowboys were the only other one. Yeah, it's 230, 240.
Okay.
I thought you could do future pick. It's not.
Yeah, you should be able to, but okay, let's spin the wheel one more time just because we got trade so late. All right, we're gonna have to reach. We're gonna have to take a chance.
Reach at this point.
Exactly. You're in the 7th round right here. We get the 2 ones that we probably wanted earlier.
If he's here, the guy I want to reach for isn't even here. That's how much of a reach he would be.
Who do you want to take?
He's not even in mock draft database, and they do a great job. They have everybody except Andrew Peasley from Wyoming. I don't think he'll get drafted.
He was a Utah State guy, man.
That's right. He's Mountain West Baker Mayfield. Yeah. Like he's got the swag of Baker Mayfield, kind of looks like Baker Mayfield. He plays like Baker Mayfield. Like he's a gunslinger. He's an undersized gunslinger, but he's older, doesn't have a ton of upside. But I want him in camp competing. He's going to raise the compete level in camp. He's going to be kind of an a-hole in like a good way. Yeah. So I don't know. Do we just Bub Means isn't on the board? All right. I got to really go deep in the bag here.
Can we go? Is there any kickers? I know we just traded up to take one. We take Will Reichert out here out of Alabama.
I think that's a fall. I think Will Reichert. I think Reichert.
He's not going to be here.
Cardi will be off the board here. Who else can we reach on? The Marshall kid's not here. I mean, we just talked about Ethan Driscoll and his size. He'd be a reach.
Yeah.
It's tough reaching.
Oh, go to Edge. Have you done much work on Jalen Green out of James Madison? I don't know if he'll be here.
Actually,
he's a very productive guy. Let me pull up his stats real quick and read them. I don't even know if it's where I had him at last time. Jalen Green's here we go. Cool. Okay, Jalen Green, 6'1", 245 out of JMU. He had 18 sacks last year at James Madison. And James Madison hosted College Game Day. They were undefeated. Obviously, they had that big deal where they weren't in the FBS for too long, so they couldn't make a bowl game, and then they ended up making it. But he ranked first in college football, 18 sacks right there amongst eligible D linemen. He had 34 total QB hurries, which was top 15. I mean, this might be a guy, smaller school, was FCS a couple years ago, and now all of a sudden he's making a name for himself. So we didn't end up taking an edge, did we?
No.
So, I mean, that's a guy that I've became familiar with just because of his production. He hasn't done any testing so far that I've been able to see. So, But I mean, is there anyone else that kind of jumps out to you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't remember the name of the trophy. What's the name? It goes to the best non-D1 player every year. They drafted 2 of the 3 winners of it. Kyle Duggar won it, and then Sam Roberts won it. And I can't think of what it's called. This is gonna bug me.
What the award's called?
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
I just want to see who won it. Why? Kyle Duggar Award, college. This is the Cliff Harris Award.
Cliff Harris.
So it goes to the best non-Division I player of the year every year. The Patriots have drafted a couple of these guys, signed a couple more. So it went to past award winners.
Tristan Vaughn, D-line Grandview University. Or Tristan
Vaughn. He's in
Vaughn.
here. But they've ended up with a few of these guys. D-line from Grandview.
So he was I guess they do it differently. He was the NAIA award winner, and then they had a Division II. It was linebacker Owen Grover out of Wartburg College. So there's either a D lineman or a linebacker.
Yeah, not seeing either of these guys. If we want to do a reach at, we already took a linebacker. Still going. Yeah, he's not here. If we want to do a reach at linebacker, Aaron Casey's another one of those like special teams kind of guys. Who else? Trajan Jeffcoat's like a defensive end that's kind of interesting. Yeah, this is tough.
Would you consider Jalen Cocker the Holy Cross wide receiver? Yeah, Croker out. Would you consider him a reach right here? Because he's pretty productive in the FCS.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably reach-ish. I mean, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing, but I think odds are better than not he doesn't get drafted.
Yeah. What about Hayden Hatton out of Idaho?
I honestly don't know a ton about him.
Okay. I figured not. I'm familiar with the Big Sky.
Right.
So Hayden Hatton, another bigger. I mean, now we're just throwing out names out there just because we're trying to reach. So
where is running back? Oh no, he went back to school. Yeah, this is tough. Trying to think if there's like a fun way to double up at quarterback. I like Jason Bean. I think Jason Bean's kind of interesting. Be a good scout team quarterback.
Jason Bean out of Kansas, right?
Yeah. Justin Rogers is like the 3rd biggest player in the draft if they just want like a nose tackle. I mean, that's all. He's big. That's all he is. He's big. But, you know. Yeah, reaching with the last pick is tough.
Yeah, I mean, probably not going to be able to do much there. So, what are your thoughts? I mean, Nelson said Marcus, Rosemead, Jack Saint. He's definitely gone at this point. He's definitely
got. I don't think he's very good. I think he's one of the few wide receivers in this class that I'm not high on.
Yeah. I mean, so what position do you want to double dip at receiver? I mean, if we want to double dip at receiver, maybe we just do that there, or do we want to just take a?
I kind of like triple dipping a tackle. I kind of like triple dipping it in. I honestly, Crum, Driscoll, Grable. You could. No. Here's the guy, Travis Glover. They've met with him. He's not expected to be drafted, but he is expected to be one of the top UDFAs. They've met with him. He played with a nasty freaking streak at the Senior Bowl.
Was he the one that wasn't invited to the Senior Bowl and then he got a late invite?
He got the late invite because of how good he was at the Hula Bowl.
Yep.
I'm not saying that, being just scrappy makes a player, but at this point in the draft, he's got good size. He wants it. Like he plays like he wants it. At the very least, he's going to be a tone setter in camp.
Let's do it. Take him. I mean, because I feel like I've taken Driscoll before, and I obviously know Frank Crum. So take a guy that, I mean, obviously I know of Glover too because he got invited to the Senior Bowl late. So let's take him there. Yeah, that would be considered a reach right there.
Cool.
So, okay. So here's our draft. I mean, obviously, it actually looks pretty good. Like, you'd like to take an offensive tackle there at 68. The board didn't, or I mean, this wheel didn't let us, but like, it's pretty standard. It wasn't too crazy, which is kind of fun, but kind of a disappointment too. I was hoping there would be a little craziness.
Yeah, I want a defensive at pick 3. I would just wanted to see what kind of responses we'd get. But I mean, this would be a solid. It would be weird.
Yeah.
But here's why I actually think it's kind of realistic. I think, and I don't agree with this, I think they kind of like what they have at tackle in terms of getting through the year. And maybe next year they revisit at the top of the board. But I think we're in for another, these are the guys we have. We're going to piece it together as we go kind of year at tackle. And if that's the belief, this draft checks just about every other box.
Yeah.
You load, and again, if the idea is the more guys we have, we're just going to roll through guys, getting 3 tackles kind of plays into that.
Yeah.
So, they loaded up there. They definitely got explosive on offense. Guerrero, Leggett, Daniels, all super explosive players. Bullard's going to be, the way they play defense, he's going to be able to make an impact year one, which you love to see out of a top 100 pick. And then Ulofoshio just kind of fits in as a special teams player and a developmental player. And maybe he ultimately ends up being the one who replaces Mac Wilson instead of Sione Takitaki.
Yeah. Because, Sione Takitaki is only on that 1-year deal. So, maybe he comes in, plays really well, gets priced out of the Patriots range, and then you were just able to sit Ulofoshio right there and let him now be the guy with Jawan Bentley, because as much as I love Jawan Bentley, he's just so limited based off of his sideline to sideline speed and what he can and can't do in, certain schemes. So taking a guy that's a little bit faster and stuff, but still has that size is, so I like it. I mean, I think that it could have been better. Like, obviously we're doing a will of chaos. Like, it's not going to be good, right. But I agree with you. Like, if it ended up like this on draft night, you still get 2 of your biggest needs at picks 1 and 2, pick 3 and 34. Then you take a guy at safety there that could fit right in here with the Patriots, play either slot corner or free safety there. You go back to take a running back later on in the draft like they've done the last couple of years. Plus you're adding, offensive tackle depth or high upside guys that could develop in a year or two. So it's definitely very likely. I agree with you. I don't know how, they don't grade this like PFF does. If this was the draft, what would you grade it?
I don't know, probably solid B minus. Well, that's not, they got Jane Daniels. I'd say getting Jane Daniels gets you an A from there. I'd say B to B minus. Like, it's solid. It's not the best draft they could have, especially looking at some of the guys. And again, like, we take Leggett, we pass on Xavier Worthy, who's a better pick, but we're doing the thing where we had to take an SEC player. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's after Daniels, but it's not bad either. It's a solid draft. I'd be worried about tackle. I think anything they do, though, I'm going to be worried about tackle. I think that's just the reality of it.
I will be too, just because we've seen what it's done to young, promising quarterbacks, how bad it's been. We've seen how offensive linemen, not just for the Patriots, for like every team that has a rotating offensive line and is starting different guys at left tackle, then right guard, then left guard every week. It's just, you can't build that continuity. So the biggest thing I want is for the O-line to stay healthy so that they can freaking get used to playing with each other and have some continuity. But 2, find a guy, because you walk out of here. I love Javon Foster, high upside, but it has to go really good for him to be the future at left tackle. And then you're probably looking at taking a first round left tackle next year. Or maybe you're taking a first-round wide receiver next year, too, because Xavier Leggett doesn't pan out, or you still need that number 1 true explosive receiver. I know people have said that Xavier Leggett's DK Metcalf. I don't know if he's that good. I don't think that he's as good as DK was coming out of college, but there's definitely some explosiveness to him. But, there's not a lot around him, and he'd probably fit better with being a true wide receiver number 2, next to like a Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel.
Right.
He doesn't have that luxury in New England. He does not. If he comes in as the 34th pick, he's probably going to be the most sought after receiver for Jayden Daniels once he gets going and gets comfortable in the system. So that'd be a little bit of a concern for me, but at least you're drafting one and not going left guard at pick 28 or whatever, 29, like we did a couple of years ago. So,
right.
But exciting. It was fun. I appreciate you coming on, Alex. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you have fun doing this, and it's a little bit more crazy if you do it with it on the Patriots Beat podcast or whatever. Hopefully it's a little crazy. I was hoping maybe I'll do it for one of my mock draft Mondays and let it be a little crazier. Hopefully that you have some success with it. But no, appreciate everyone for the support. Appreciate again everyone coming in here. Make sure you guys follow Alex on Instagram, Twitter. Of course, I know everyone's always like, Jace, you're not a true reporter, you don't know anything. That's true. Alex is a real reporter, so definitely follow him because he definitely has a lot more information than I do in all these draft prospects. So appreciate you coming on, Alex. Hopefully you can come on again, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. So all right, make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment, and until next time, guys, we will talk to you guys later.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.